We are live, coming here with a brand new Stir the Pod podcast show. I'm your host, Trevor, and tonight we are joined by Alex. Alex, how you doing tonight?
Yo.
And we are also joined by Andy. Andy, how you doing tonight?
What up?
And we are here with the episode 19 finale show tonight. And, you know, I feel like how we normally start like a finale episode, we're like, damn, CT won, or oh, Bananas won, or oh, whatever. The thing that's in my mind right now is how heartbroken I am for my boy Leroy. That's the first thing. I don't even care. Like, I kind of forget CT even won. I'm just like so heartbroken. You know, he's been a part of 12 seasons of the challenge, and he's gone. It's heartbreaking. What do you guys think?
So that you're saying that was your like biggest thing you took away from like the way it ended and everything?
Maybe it was that montage. It was like that montage, and I was just you see Adam, you see all the good moments of Leroy, and you're just like, because realistically, he is one of the top. He's got to be top 5 all time of not winning a final. Got to be. He's maybe top 3.
For sure.
Yeah.
So it's just heartbreaking to see a guy like that in one of the most respected guys who's ever been on the show just, come up short. It's heartbreaking.
I would say my like biggest one thought about the episode overall, because we're going to dive into everything that happened, was almost sort of like, because I feel like every final has different vibes at the finish line. Like when Ashley took the money, it was super like quiet and dark and all that. I feel like this one was pretty upbeat. Like even Leroy was in good spirits and everything. And I feel like my takeaway from this finale was just that we're done with this. Like I feel accomplished that we did 19 episodes of this. God. And like, obviously, we had a returning champ win again, and we'll get into all of that. But just the fact that like this thing was 19 episodes, it was 90 minutes almost every week, filmed during COVID and all that. And it's like, we did it. Like we made it to the finish lines just as viewers and podcasters, but that was kind of my takeaway overall.
Andy, what'd you think?
I echo both of what you guys were saying, but my biggest one was CT. The champ still has it. And he doesn't seem to be going anywhere. And at this point in time, when did Bananas say that, I don't know how many more of these I got in me? CT's not even saying that. If CT sticks around for a couple more seasons and gets a couple more rings, who knows?
I agree. You look at a guy like CT, already well-respected, and, everybody knows I'm not a huge CT fan, but it's hard to deny his performance this season. He played a hell of a game. You remember episode 1, people were going for him right away, episode 1, and it was the girls' elimination that just kind of changed everything, and then he kind of just slid his way all the way across, and, here he is, the champ. And it's crazy to me, though, I guaranteed if you go back to episode 1, there's got to be an interview with like Cory or somebody else being like, I do not want to see CT run in a final because I know CT would beat me. That happens every single season with the top dog, someone like that. And here we are, finale, and CT wins. What else is new? So, it's crazy. And yes, CT has more rings than Peyton Manning, according to Jesse Adams. So, gotta love to see that.
So I think that kind of flows right into what I think we wanted to start with, because like Trevor kind of mentioned, because it's a finale, we want to kind of react to the end first, as opposed to starting at the beginning of the episode. Let's do, tell me if you guys think this is okay. We start with we'll recap the results real quickly, and then just go one by one, kind of each person of basically what we think about their results and what that means for their legacy.
Yeah.
So first, first to fourth, first place, obviously CT and Amber, the champions. Amber's a new champion. CT gets ring number 4. Second place ended up being, and we'll get into the race for second place, which ended up being really close. Second place was Kam and Cory. Third place, Leroy and Nany. And then fourth place, FEZZZZZZY and Kayce. So let's go. Let's start with the top, like we're kind of already talking about, CT and Amber. My first thought when CT crosses the finish line again is
Alex, I hate to cut you off here, but I do want to mention another champion and it's all our AWLs out there in our chat and stuff. Jesse, Justin, Mikey, all you guys, thank you. Thank you so much for being a part of our show this entire year. I know we love doing these live recaps. Feel free to just bombard the chat tonight. We love you guys. That's why we always end it with those sayings. So we do it for a reason. So sorry, Alex, had to get that out there before.
No, fair enough. I mean, the chat looks already popping tonight. And obviously we've been talking with these guys for 19 episodes. But so CT and Amber. So CT wins. And my first thought is, I think we're officially in, we talk about LeBron or Jordan. Now I think we're officially in the season of Bananas or CT. Bananas, and one of the greatest things about talking about the challenge is debating who are the greatest. And Bananas kind of pulled away with that 7th ring last season. And I think CT just basically matched him here. Like now it's a real debate. I could go either way on who the greatest challenger is. You have CT, you have Bananas. CT's got 4, Bananas has 7. They've done it in very different ways, but CT is in the conversation.
I agree with that. Obviously CT's iconic. You can't deny that. I mean, when you look at the greatest male challengers of all time, I'm not saying in order, but you got to put CT, West, and Bananas. Those have to be the top 3. Maybe Kenny for somebody else, but we'll get into that. But when you look at those guys, I mean, the thing about Bananas is why he's I shouldn't say respected, but why you consider him the GOAT is the take the money and run. I mean, that is one of the most iconic things that literally changed the game format. Like, I mean, it literally changed it, gave Ashley the opportunity to do it. He literally made his own rule because of it. And, I hate to compare rings because obviously 7 is greater than 4. Somebody in the chat or somebody in this podcast might say it's very similar to Brady versus Manning. But, I mean, come on. I mean, I personally think Bananas is the GOAT. 7 champs, 7 seasons winning. I mean, you can't beat that.
Well, so here's the thing. So let me go this route with you. Because the conversation of the GOAT for basketball is MJ and LeBron. But I still hold true to the most dominant player in their prime was Shaquille O'Neal, where he was an absolute force. Like, him in his prime could beat anyone, period. He was a beast. CT in his prime, when he was just an absolute wild card, Bananas in his prime, I'm taking CT. I am. And granted, like, that's one of those things that the resumes don't necessarily show, but when CT was in his prime, he was an animal, absolute animal. So I think you got to factor that in. But I do think that after this last ring, that conversation does become a real thing.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, and like Trev, you were saying how he kind of CT kind of ended it by saying, he's not slowing down anytime soon. It kind of reminds me of like Brady, like Tom Brady just gets another ring and like there's no signs of him slowing down. Like it's not like he wins and retires or said he's close to retiring or anything. And it seems like the same with CT. And it's like he won this season and he's won. What was the last one? War of the Worlds 2 that he won, where he's not in the best shape, but like he's a little bit bigger than prime CT, and he can still fucking make it to the finish line. Like this guy, and I think we kind of talked about already too. Episode 1, he was the main target, and then that target slowly drifted away for whatever reason. But like people obviously know who this guy is, and he's still winning finals. He could win. He could end up matching Bananas.
Yeah, well, Andy, your statement. I think your audio is still a little messed up, but your statement, like CT in his prime would beat Bananas in his prime, correct? That's what you said? Who says CT's not in his prime now? Very Brady-esque. I mean,
that's a good point.
He's old. Your audio's good now. Your audio's audio. Like, I mean, you look at his past and he's definitely done. I mean, look at CT's beginning of his career. He wasn't winning or anything. And I would say, like, that's the CT, like, everybody remembers. You're like, holy shit, you're freaked out, punching people, getting kicked off the show. Obviously he won the bracket for us, him and Wes. So I hate the argument of saying, like, Bananas versus CT in their prime, because you can't match it. It's like LeBron, and like personally, I like LeBron better than Jordan, just because I think the competition's better. But that's for another thing.
Yeah, CT, if you look at CT's career when he does challenge seasons and when his rings have come, they've come on the back nine. And like he's won the last, I guess, 2 of 3 that he's done, and then Invasion wasn't too far in the past. Like he did, what was it, chat? 8, 9 seasons before he even won on Rivals 2 with Wes. Like you said, like when you think back to CT in his prime, like when CT was a beast, it was those early seasons, but he wasn't winning challenges. He was getting himself kicked off. Now that he's like knows how to, compete on the show, now is when he's piling up his rings.
Also, I think it's really hard to you can compare the two, because you look at the targets on both of them. CT does not have a bigger target than Bananas. Every season Bananas is like on the show, his target is the biggest by far. When CT comes on, it's more people are scared of him to go against him. So he kind of just glides to a certain point. And then, that's why he makes it so far half the time, is because nobody wants, maybe it's just the fear factor. And maybe that's a good thing on his side, like for this argument. But Andy, what do you think?
And I think if I were to pick like CT's prime, I would go Rivals 2 when he won it with Wes, where he was starting, because we've really seen 2 careers within CT. And I think that speaks to his whole career, where that front 9, he was just an absolute bulldog. He would see red. He would want to take someone out. He would want to fight, super physical. The back 9, very different. He realizes that he's got to play the game. He's got to be good at puzzles. He's got to be good at running. Very different than the front. But I think that Rivals 2, especially with him winning that, was the first where it was like, okay, I have to start making this transition. So his head started to get in the right place, but he was still built like an absolute Greek god during that season. So him and Rivals 2, I think, takes Bananas out in just about any season that Bananas is in.
Fair enough. Alex, what do you think? Anything else?
I think I think we're about good on CT. I think what this does so if CT would have not won this season, I don't think it hurts his legacy a lot. Like he would have still have been top 3 minimum all time. I think what this win does for him is it gives him a very legitimate shot at number 1 and almost kind of cuts it down to him and Bananas. So now it's Bananas with 7, Darrell with 4, and CT with 4. Those guys are those guys are the only ones with 4 or more. And I think that's what
Kenny with 5 if he wouldn't have gotten kicked off.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's safe to say.
Alex, I want to bring up, because Ryan McCord brought up, he got thrown in the first elimination. Technically, he didn't even go into an elimination, so I don't count that, going into an elimination. When was the last time CT was actually called into an elimination? Because he didn't get called in last season. He volunteered to go against Jay because he thought that was going to be an easy win. The season before that, I think it was the Brazilian dude called him out. He wanted to respect. But before that, when was the last time he went into an elimination?
He won the not one against Darrell.
Which was?
That was a partner.
Invasion.
Was that a solo not one?
That's a long time.
That's the thing. He doesn't go into these eliminations, like you said, because he got called in by JP. Final Reckoning, I don't think he lost an elimination. I think it was a weird purge thing. Dirty 30, I don't think he went into elimination at all. And then before that was Invasion, where he's kind of skated by, and then it got down to where it was literally the last 2 champs that were left, Darrell and CT, had to go against each other.
Yeah.
And then CT tied the knot.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think are we good with CT, and then we move on to Amber now?
Yeah, let's go to Amber.
I'm really curious to get your guys' thoughts on Amber being a challenge champion. My first thought was this is, if you look at, the list of challengers who have won a season or more, Amber might be the most random person of all time.
Oh,
we were about 13 episodes deep, and we still weren't sure which Amber was which. Like, she was just invisible. And then, towards the end of the season, just when numbers are getting cut down, so she gets more airtime naturally, you start to kind of get a feel on who she is, and you get a feel that she can actually run a little bit. And then she just basically kind of lucks into having CT as a partner because she was with Darrell for so long. I would say maybe most unlikely winner of the show since like Kara's cousin that one season.
That's a good thing. I like how you pulled that.
Yeah. So I mean, what do you guys think of Amber B being a challenge champ?
You want to take it first, Andy? You can.
Sure. I don't think she gets enough credit from us, from everyone. Let me ask you this: what did she do wrong this season?
I think her best move was fucking up in the puzzle with Fezzy. That was her best move. Her leaving Fezzy in that cave made him go into an elimination to get CT.
Oh, yeah, but Fezzy was not going to take her because Fezzy's God's gift, and she's not. So why would he ever risk himself to be with her?
Yeah, but her coming in last, her being bad turned out to be good.
But she could have finished first, and he still would have wanted to change. Absolutely. He wanted to go with Kayce because Kayce was the only one who was as good as him. Obviously, that's not the case. But, what did Amber B do wrong this whole season? She had a phenomenal rookie season. And you can call it, like you talk about how she lucked into CT. Granted, I don't think you're wrong, per se, because she did luck into CT. But at the same time, she got dumped by Fezzy. It just happened that CT was the only guy left. But, of all the girls in the final, she smoked them. She put up a great performance in the final. She had 2 eliminations that she dominated both of them. She had not a great political game because she did ruffle some feathers, but she was willing to dabble in that, where I feel like some rookies really try to stay away. And a lot of times it ends up putting a target on their back, especially later in the season. But she did enough from a competition perspective, political perspective, to stay in the game. And granted, she got dealt a great hand when CT was her partner, but she was the one leading the charge in the finale. So, I think Amber had a phenomenal season, and I think she deserves every bit of being a champion, even in her rookie season.
Yeah, you kind of hit everything I was going to say. Absolutely. She dominated the run. The running portion wasn't even close. It was by far, she was leading the pack, and I'm glad CT didn't change. I think that was really smart to stick with her because, why change? You won the first 4, checkpoints. Why would you change? So I cannot believe how well she did. And maybe, too, credit that CT and her just were the perfect team. Maybe she wasn't great at puzzles and stuff like that, but CT complimented her. She wasn't screaming at her or anything like that. And absolutely, it seems like everybody in the chat agrees, it was a great season for her. Hope to have her back. I'm curious, what would you guys think, if she comes back?
She's also pretty bad, too.
If she comes back next season, what alliances do you think she would, cook up now? Obviously, she's done the rookie job and all that. You think she would stick to more of the challenge house or the Big Brother house? Because, you're running a final with CT, Kam, that group over there, Cory. Wow, I didn't even think about that. She was the only challenge person. There's no Big Brother in the top 3. Everybody said Big Brother was dominating this game and stuff like that. They didn't finish in the top 3.
Yeah,
another feather in her cap. Of all the Big Brother people that we've talked about all season, she was the one to make it out on top.
Audio again, Andy. Boogie Brown back. Welcome. Yeah, crazy. And like Jesse Adams said, CT told her to run, and that's all she did. So.
Yeah, and I feel like because it's always weird when a rookie wins like this, because it's she could come back for no other challenges in her career, and we'll probably remember her as being having that one awesome season that she did really well in. But I feel like she could do 5 more challenges, win none of them, and then stop doing them, and we'll still think about her in really high regards just to what she accomplished this season.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it was just more so a weird winner when you look at the whole season because she was so quiet in the first 2/3 of it, as opposed to like I don't think it was a fluke by any means. Like she absolutely 100% earned it. It was just the edit that she kind of got early on where she wasn't on screen at all, and she ends up being a champion.
Absolutely. All right, should we move on to the second part? Second team.
Yeah, second team. Kam and Cory. Let's do Cory first. What it kind of means for his legacy and everything. I mean, it's just I feel like this is just a classic Cory finish. He makes it to a final. I would say the one thing that's kind of a good sign for him, I guess, is he took a few seasons off. I think because he was raising his kids. He has kids. Yeah, he has kids. Oh, okay. I didn't know that till tonight. I just found that out. Because like he wasn't on War of the Worlds or War of the Worlds 2, and then he comes on for Total Madness and Double Agents and makes the finals in both of them. And Cory had also an interesting season because he was bouncing around partners every episode. He didn't have a skull for the longest time. But again, it's just like, is Cory gonna ever break through to get a challenge championship?
Yeah, and I kind of like Cory. You know, starting off in his career, I wasn't a huge Cory fan. I watched the Real World season he was on, and he was all right. And then, you know, he was kind of that cocky, you know, kid coming through. Thought he would, you know, kind of like that kid, you know, you go to college and he's bragging about high school sports and stuff like that, you know, making his way through. And like kind of like the chat saying, I see Boogie Brown saying, I feel like Cory's due for a win. It's almost a matter of time. Like he's like to that point, and I just feel like he needs like a free agents-esque season for him to come. That's what I think, honestly.
No.
I was gonna say
direction.
I was gonna say partner with a really good female partner the entire time.
I don't think so.
That's how he excelled with Kam.
Trev, if Buddy doesn't have a brain, he might have all the popcorn muscles in the world, but he doesn't have a brain. If he was in a free agents-esque where it's him against everyone else in a final,
no. I'm saying free agents-esque as in like the finale where you're switching partners at the end. You know, where it's like top 3.
But even that's a risk for him. What happened when he got
it's always a risk, but it changes it up between the guys because you know what I'm saying? Like it's not you can give him the strongest person. And I don't know if Cory's going to win.
Before we talk about Cory breaking through, before we talk about him even being due for a win, he's got to just complete one single puzzle. Like, and I'm very serious. Like, it's actually comical how stupid he is. Like, you're talking about a college kid, like talking about high school. He was talking about PE. I'm not good with the 6, 7, and 8s. What the fuck does that mean? Like, he's just an absolute idiot. And like, regardless of if he's in a duo or if he's by himself, until he can show that he's got an IQ that's in the double digits, then I don't think we can say he's due for a win.
I mean,
that's my take.
I mean, the thing is, he still can't do math, whatever you say. How many finals appearances does he have? 4 now? 3?
Yeah, 4.
4 final appearances. I mean, that's still pretty damn good.
See, I think that helps what I'm saying even more.
Yeah,
it's 4. He can't go over the hump because of the math. No, I get that. Yeah. I get that. That's why I'm saying like a free agent-esque game, like finale-wise is what I'm talking about. I shouldn't say free agent-esque game. Free agent final. Because then it's like, you know, yes, Kam was a great partner to have, but if Cory ran with, it just had, you know, the stars had to align for him in that scenario is what I'm saying. Because realistically, him with a good partner, I don't know, gets it done. That's why I think it needs a shakeup for him to win. No?
Well, no, yeah, and I don't know. I feel like, and I don't know if they would ever do this again or not, but like if they did another Rivals season or another X's season and Cory is with Bananas or Fessy or any of the 5 girls he's hooked up with that's not named Anissa, he could have a good shot at like making a final and, you know, doing some damage with them. It's just like he's proven that he's a good competitor. He's proven that he can win challenges, win eliminations, make finals. And I'm glad. And like I kind of agree with the first thing you said, Trev, and just in terms of his likability factor when he was coming on those first few seasons and he was, you know, I'm going for CT, I'm going for Bananas, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to be the new face of the challenge. And I feel like he's kind of took a few seasons off. He's come back and he's a little more quiet, but like at the same time, he's still like same personality and all that. He's just a little more tame because he does have kids. So
that's what I was going to say. That's the reason why.
And in terms of his challenge legacy, I don't think this thing getting second place does a whole lot. Like if he would have won, it would have been like, this is, you know, he's a challenge champ and all that. But second place, third place, I feel like was right on par with what you would expect from him.
Yeah. And here's what I'd love to see for Cory, because I do like Cory, and I'm right there with you guys. We're like, when he was like first couple seasons, I thought he was a douchebag, but now I do like him, and I like Nelson a lot too. And if we saw from Cory what we saw from CT in terms of their challenge career, like if Cory realizes that this is a wake-up call of like, I actually need to start taking time to be smart and like try to like figure out how puzzles like can come together, he could be really good, and he could still come out with a couple rings just like CT did. So if we saw that out of Cory, one, I would love that, and two, I think it would be that. I think that's how he, because I still don't think he's due for a win. If he is able to make that change in himself more so than relying on a change in the challenge, then I think he's going to get a couple rings. So I'd love to see it because I like Cory.
So kind of the transition into that would be, what do you guys think about Kam's performance? Because throughout the season, I thought Kam played a really strategic, really smart game. And then, you know, I'm happy for her. She got second place and stuff. But I felt left, like, I said it last week, like, I was kind of disappointed in her performance, like in the finale. Like, did you guys not feel that? Like, I wish she would have, like, I was hoping, like, she would be killing it. Literally, kill a Kam. And I just felt like, I don't know if she ran out of gas. She was obviously, you know, if you asked me to do the stuff they do, I don't think I could do it on the, you know, without working out or anything. But I just think how her season ended left like a sour taste in my mouth. I don't know how you guys feel about her. Obviously, she killed the puzzle, did all that. The running portion, you know, she kind of was a little far behind. She caught up, obviously got second place. But I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I would agree just from the standpoint of it almost felt like this season was maybe one of the best opportunities she'll ever get to win a final because she was in a final with a pretty good partner in Cory. I think Kam is maybe just the most well-rounded female competitor that's like doing these things actively now. Like we've seen she can win eliminations, she can win challenges, puzzles, she's good politically and all that. I do fear though that like kind of like I said, like this may have been her best opportunity, that she's getting close to that Nany range, not in terms of quality of competitor, but just in terms of like, you got to win one of these at some point. And I know she's only done 5. And like, I just think it kind of speaks to this era of the challenge. Like these things are hard to win. It's not, you know, there's not 3, 4, 5 winners every season. There's 1 or 2. And Kam's one of the best girls going. I think by the time she retires from the challenge, I think it's safe to say she'll probably have a ring. But like, she's got to get going on it soon.
Yeah. Cause personally, I just don't want to see her fall in the same line as like Leroy, for example. Like,
yeah,
together and stuff like that. Great competitor, great everything. It's just, you know, like tonight, like I don't know. I was just watching, and I was just like watching the running portion. I'm like, is she really sticking with Nany? And I'm just like, she could do so much better. I feel like. I mean, I saw people talking earlier, like Nany has no lungs. She smokes the cigs. So I don't know, Andy. What do you think?
I mean, I feel like one of the classic like comparisons going into this season was, is Kam or is Tori going to be the like top female competitor moving forward. That's just like kind of how I've viewed it. And I think a lot of the AWLs would agree. Even though I do think Kam had a below average performance in the final, I think she won that conversation. And I think it's very clear that, and you guys both mentioned that Kam is the most like well-rounded, can do it all competitor from a female perspective that we have moving forward. Especially like, even though she hasn't won yet, but getting second place here is good experience to for her to just like have, because a lot of times, like we see it all the time, very rarely do people win their first final that they're in. So like for her not to win this one, it's experience for her. She's still proven that she's very good at these, and maybe it lights that fire that like, and granted, maybe she needs to run a little bit more, because it looked like, I mean, she was gassed. But she's super smart. She's very competitive. She's good in the political aspect of the game. So, I mean, we'll see what happens with her moving forward, but I think you're spot on in the sense that by the time she retires, she will have a ring.
Yeah, I think we all agree, like, she has to win, correct? Like, she has to. Who, like, if you look at the girls' list now, if you were to tell me, like, any other girl, like, I'm looking at, like, the cast list, like, the predictions and stuff of, like, the girls coming on the next show, and I'm just like, is it really a competition? Like, she has to be the top girl again, like, every season.
Right? Yeah, maybe Tori.
Well, okay, that's the thing, but I still give the advantage to Kam over Tori. I just think like there's a gap even. Like, I mean, Tori's past 3 seasons have been shit, and at least Kam is making those the steps to win a a challenge. So I don't know. I mean,
yeah, and I think this season is what like solidified Kam as like firmly being in that top girl, active girl spot. Because like before the season, she had done 4, made 2 finals, which is like already a good resume. But it's like if she would have gone home, maybe episode 1 or 2, it would have been like, we got to see what Kam does next season. Whereas like she made it to the final. She from day one was leading the political game. And like I think what this season did for her overall was it just set her up going forward as the best girl that's doing these things, even though she hasn't won yet.
Andy, so let me ask you this. So I'm right there with you. Like I'm on the same page. But now that I'm thinking about a little bit more, just in terms of the whole season, do you think it's unfair to Tori to give Kam that much praise for this season? And what I mean by that is Kam came in here with a Loctite alliance with Leroy. They both were with Leroy was with Kayce. Who did Kam have from the get-go? Who's her first partner?
Wasn't CT, obviously, because that whole thing happened. And she went with...
She ended up being with Kyle for a lot.
I think it was... No, Kyle picked her, I thought.
Yeah, Kyle picked her, though. Her first partner.
This only happened
either way. Well, regardless of who it was. Was it Josh? No.
Yeah, because they did... No. They did. It was Josh and Kam, and then... Leroy and Kayce, because they did the Leroy Kam Big Brother swap.
I see what you're saying.
So I thought it was Big Brother. The reason I say that is because then their alliance is Loctite. Like from a political perspective, from day one, Kam's projected like season was light years better than Tori's. And like that's strictly because of the fact that Kam and Leroy are about to be living together, and they got to pick their own partners.
Audio again. Classic Magic Jack over there in the arena. Third
place?
Wait, can you hear me again?
Yeah, you're good. Go ahead. You're good.
Okay. Jesus Christ. So I'm just saying, like, even though Kam had a great season, she had the numbers on her side from day one. And I don't fault Tori because I don't think Tori didn't have a smart political game, but it was just Kam was tied to Leroy. And based on how this setup was for the teams, they were able to be part of that Big Brother alliance from day one. So they had the numbers the entire time. Whereas Cory had Cory. Cory didn't have shit. He had Fezzy and Nely T. And how did that go out for an alliance? So
Scuba Nelly.
But I also think like you have to praise, Kam for putting yourself in that position to, like that's a smart move. Getting a Big Brother alliance and Leroy getting a Big Brother alliance, that's pretty smart.
But so very rarely do you enter a challenge with someone who you are living with. And what I mean by that is 1,000% not going to stab you in the back, full-blown alliance. You can trust them with everything. And you get to pick your team. That does not happen often. So, granted, did they play it right? Yes, 100%. Not trying to take away from that. But were they also given a phenomenal opportunity? Yes.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. All right, talk about third place now. Leroy and Nany.
Yeah, Leroy and Nany. I think we got to start with Leroy. And this, I think, is one of the biggest storylines of the whole episode. Leroy, I guess, is retiring for good, it sounds like. I mean, he's officially, I guess, Phil Rivers, Dan Marino, one of the greatest to ever win. You're going to look back and think, oh, it would have been nice if Leroy won a title. Very, very easy to root for. I'm confused kind of what this does for his legacy, because it's not necessarily the fact that he didn't win. It's the fact that he didn't win and he's calling it quits. Like that, I think, is what cements him as for sure the greatest guy to never win. Whereas if he wasn't going to retire, I think we would all still be holding out hope.
Yeah, I personally think when you look at Leroy's resume, whatever you want to say, he's got to be up there as one of the greatest to ever play the game. Like, I don't care what you say. Okay, I'm not saying he's top 5, but he's in the top. I would probably say 15, top 10, close to top 10 range is where I would rank him. Maybe, and like I brought it up earlier, maybe the greatest to never win a title. I mean, he is the most well-liked person I think the show has ever had. Who hates him? There's not one. The only person you can argue that hated him was Avery, and they became rivals, 3 partners, because it was an after-show thing and it wasn't even a rivalry at all. And they became best friends. It wasn't a huge thing. It's just so heartbreaking though to see him not, especially in. What's even worse is this third place for him. I would have loved to see him at least get some money, and how close it actually was. I mean, it's sad.
So you're spot on, and I'm glad you talked about the fact that he's so well liked, because I think you've got to put him in top 3 all time of most well liked competitors on the show, and maybe even number 1, especially because he's been on the show for so long. Not only does a high percentage of people like him, but he's been on forever, so a lot of people like him. I kind of like the fact that he finished 3rd in his last season, because, and he talked about it a bit in one of his last confessionals, but it's you know what? I just don't have it. It's not, and he said, I gave it my all. I just don't have it. And it'd be one thing if he finished 2nd and it gives you that little taste of damn, I was so close. Maybe I could actually go out and get a ring. But when you finish 3rd, it's you know what? I finished the challenge. I gave it my all. It wasn't my day, and it's never been my day in a decade. So it kind of solidifies his decision, because someone in his shoes, I'm sure he's beaten up about having to make this call. And finishing 3rd is kind of you know what? It's not going to be me. I started off as a garbage man. I'm walking out of this show with a wife, and I think he works the Britney Spears show in Vegas. So I've grown as a guy. I've got a potential wife now. So I think this is the challenge has given me everything that it can, and I've given the challenge everything that I can. So I liked him finishing 3rd, and he might not be riding off in the sunset of like winning, but he's riding off in the Leroy sunset that we all know and love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I was going to say two things real quick. One, kind of just going off that, I feel like Leroy, you got about 7 seasons deep with him, and you just got that feeling that like he was always going to be in the hunt, but he was never going to win it all. If this is really it for him, he's not going to win it all. I just pulled it up really quickly. I just want to do a quick 1-by-1 of his seasons now that he's officially calling it quits. So this is Leroy's career here. Total of 12 seasons, I think. So first season, Rivals, obviously makes the final. Mike finishes 3rd place. Next season, X's. He's with Naomi and goes home pretty early. Terrible partner. Rivals 2, middle of the pack with Ty. Free Agents, he made it pretty far. I think he was 5th overall. 3 guys made the final. After that was X's 2 with Naya, looking good for winning the final. Then she got sent home, so 2nd place there. Bloodlines got sent home because of his cousin. Rivals 3 got sent home because of Avery. Dirty 30.
No. He got sent home because of himself.
Oh, yeah, his back. Right.
The classic banana shoving the icy hot on his ass.
And then Dirty 30 individual game made it pretty far, maybe 7th or 8th place overall for the guys. Vendettas made the final, didn't win any money. War of the Worlds had Shailene as a partner, another terrible partner. War of the Worlds 2 made the final, got 2nd place, and then now Double Agents 3rd place.
I mean, he's had tough luck. I mean,
yeah,
those injuries during that's like the prime, I would say. His partner, it was his cousin going home in Bloodlines, right? You said, broke her toe or foot or whatever, right?
Yeah, and according to the challenge Wikipedia, the total money that he's won over all those seasons is $36,500. Very small amount for all those seasons and all those finals. Like, he made finals, but to win $36K, he was 9-5 in eliminations.
Damn.
I think for me, if I were to just rank, and I think this has got to be the case for a lot of people, if you were just to rank or give like a Mount Rushmore of your favorite people to ever be on the show, Leroy's got to be up there. Like, just favorite across the board. Like, he was always entertaining. He wasn't a boring guy. He was very competitive. He always liked to have a good time. Like, I've talked about this a lot because I think the challenge lacks this. We are losing someone who is really good for the challenge.
Yeah.
He's not the best to ever do it, but he is really good for the show.
Fan favorite, like, definitely like one of the like faces of the show. And, you know, I don't know that what's next, you know, who's going to be on trying to fill that void, but it's big shoes to fill for the guys. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. And it's not in like, we don't have a easy person to fill that void. And Leroy, like you said, just in terms of fan favorite, it was always like, you know, when you see the cast leaking for the next season of the challenge and you saw Leroy, you're like, let's go. We're going to get to see Leroy. He gave very, very funny confessionals throughout. And we may get to some of this in our full season recap. But yeah, I mean, people from his era, kind of like Jordan and Zach, they're much more dislikable people overall than Leroy. Leroy was kind of Banana's #1 guy the whole time, so maybe they're both going out now. But yeah, I mean, Leroy was just always a face where you saw he was on the challenge. You knew he was probably going to do good, maybe make a final, maybe win an elimination or two, but just never going to win it all.
Yeah. Well, and here's one thing that the chat's saying, and this is the first thing that popped into my head of like, who is going to fill that void? I initially thought Kyle, and Jesse Adams says Cory. Both of those guys, yeah, you know, they're both like lighthearted, enjoyable guys. Like, Kyle's really funny, but you can't trust either of them. They've rubbed people the wrong way. Leroy's never been like that. Like, granted, all three of those guys are like classic, like high middle tier from a competitive perspective. Like they're both like, or all of them are very good, like athletically and competitively. But Leroy just like, he rubs no one the wrong way. And even though he's like a happy-go-lucky type of guy, like he hasn't pissed anyone off. And when you do this for a decade, that is almost impossible.
Yeah. What do you think his dirtiest move, and I don't even think it's that dirty, but the dirtiest move he's ever pulled was basically flipping on Wes in Battle of the Exes 2? Would we say that's his dirtiest move, which the only reason why he did was because of his friend coming back and the whole house turning?
I think so, because I think remember Dirty 30, they had like for each cast member, like, you know, those little clips of like, this is what makes this person dirty. And they tried to hype it up as that. And I think it was actually, they hyped it up his dirtiest move as like siding with Wes in the first place.
Yeah.
Because Bananas went home. But it's like, that's just a classic Leroy move. You go with who's in power.
Yeah. So let's move on to the next person, and that's Nany. I mean, we all like Nany here. I guess us, the hosts. You know, it's like another person that I wish could make it, but it's kind of like the same thing as Leroy. It's kind of like you get that close, but she's never going to win, and it's always going to be like that. And I don't know. I mean, I think this has probably been like, what, her best season ever? Like, honestly, like, I would say this is probably, like, even though she's not going home with money, winning that elimination, I mean, I don't think she's like ever won an elimination. So winning that and, you know, getting third place and running the final with Leroy, I think this is going to go down as like her favorite season. But, you know, I don't know. What do you guys think about her performance this year?
Yeah, I think Nany's kind of like Matthew Stafford, like always good, always producing, but just a notch below, you know, what Leroy, for example, has been at. It is, I guess, when I saw this, I was kind of surprised that this is only her second final. Like, she made the final on Free Agents, finished just behind Laurel, and she's gotten to the classic like just before the final stage of the game ever since then. Whereas Leroy, for example, has made a few finals and just never won it. So I think this does do something for her legacy, just in terms of the fact that it makes her Free Agents performance look a little less fluky, because now she's made the final twice. Overall, though, I think Nany, when you think of Nany Challenge, you think much more of her hooking up with guys and hooking up with rookies than you do what place did she get? I mean, I really have the itch right now to just do a long run through of all the guys, but I think that's kind of what you think of when you think of Nany. But I mean, good for her. She did, like you said, she did have a very, very impressive season.
Yeah, Andy.
We don't want to do a run through. We don't want to be here for 3 hours. But I think comparing Nany to Stafford is a little insulting to Stafford, just because, like, even though Stafford hasn't like won a lot, he's put up really, really good numbers. Whereas, like, I feel like Nany necessarily hasn't. I think if I were to be comparing her to someone, I would do Ryan Tannehill, where they're always floating around and you're always waiting for them to take the next step, but it never happens. And Tannehill's been ready to take the next step for about 6 years now, and I think you could say the same about Nany. And it's gotten to the point for both of them where it's like, regardless of how many more years they do, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, and granted, I really like Nany. I think she's really good for the show. I would love to see her come back for a couple more seasons, but I think we can all say confidently that she's never going to win a ring unless there's some like super funky format that works out in her favor. But she's proven that she doesn't really have what it takes to win a final.
Yeah, I think the only format she would win if it's like Battle of the X's, but like you're in teams. So like her team would be like 10 people versus, you know, some teams with like 2 or 3. But what I was gonna say was, do you think Nany will be back next season, or is this her last run? We got one yes. Andy, what do you think? I don't know. I mean, I feel like this is a great way to go out. You know, this is a spoiler-free podcast. I think the season just started or just might have flown out, so I haven't looked at the cast list or anything like that. But I don't know. If I'm her, I think I'd just go out like this. You know, you ran a final with one of your best friends. You finished third. What else do you have to prove? A win? I don't think you're going to get one.
Here's the thing about Nany at this point. She could retire, and her walk into the sunset is very similar to Lee's, where they both kind of had a similar career. Granted, Leroy didn't hook up with even a tenth of the guys that Nany hooked up with, but they both kind of had a similar career. And does she call it quits, and does she kind of snowball affect Lee's decision? Maybe. But one thing that I think you can't overlook with Nany, with CT, with Anissa, with all these old heads that keep doing it, what else do they do? Does Nany have a real job? She's probably just a waitress. So why not keep coming back on here? You know what I mean? And that, I don't want to make that sound bad, but at the same time, filming the challenge has got to be a highlight of any given year of hers. So she can still make a final. So why not keep going? Yeah. So I don't know. I would like to see her back, but it wouldn't surprise me if this was it for her.
Alex, anything?
I mean, I would guess that she's going to do at least 3 more of these things. I think Nany is when she stops doing them, she's not going to view it as how she's going out, quote unquote. I think she's just going to stop doing them. I think she knows every time that she's not going to win. She's going to meet some hot young guys who don't know who she is. She's going to, cash a paycheck for just being on the show. And that's what she enjoys, and good for her. And she's going to smoke some cigs, maybe win an elimination every 5 years or so. But I mean, nonetheless, she's made her impression on the challenge world, no matter what.
Yeah. So let's quickly hurry to this next team. I know a lot of people have been waiting for this, and I almost kind of forget they were in this episode, honestly. So with that being said, 4th place, going home mid-episode, we had Kayce and FEZZZZZY. So where should we even begin with this team? I mean, the ego of FEZZZZZZY is one of the biggest egos I think I've ever seen in my entire life. I think one of the highlights of this episode, honestly, was Cory, when he literally goes like this. He's like, oh, insert the play where FEZZZZZZY's like, oh, Kayce ruined the final, we would have won and all that. Perfect editing. And I really do, as much as I hate MTV and the stuff they do, their editing, their soundtrack, everything tonight was very solid. I'll give them that, But good Lord, this team, you're coming into the final. This team has to be 1 or 2, coming in. And for them to literally just collapse like that was beautiful. It was awesome. It brought tears to my eyes. I was so happy. I mean, that little picture of just, FEZZZZZY just sitting on the log, he's just slumped like this, just going like this. And TJ's just are you going to even fucking try, basically? And he's just not doing it. I mean, what a pussy. I mean, are you kidding me? What a pussy. Andy, I know you've been just dying to tee off on this, so I'll save a little rant for you. What do you have to say?
So, I mean, it's no secret that I hate FEZZZZZY. We all hate FEZZZZZY. All the AWLs hate FEZZZZZY. He's just such a little baby back bitch. This episode could not have been a more perfect way to end his season of how he's handled this. And it was just absolutely phenomenal. Production made him look like a little bitch. that he is, Kayce was still chugging along, eating all of her stuff, drinking the blood, having to coach him through like, oh, let's do this. TJ's giving him shit. TJ's like, hey, are you going to do this? And then, of course, in classic Fezzy attitude, this might have been the favorite way that like he said it. He was like, yeah, TJ, I'm going to finish it. It was literally like a 5-year-old when your parent says like, finish your broccoli. I will, Mom. Stop. Like, he's just such a little pussy that it just drives me nuts. And like, for him to be the reason that they got timed out. And Kayce was clear about that too. Like, she was pissed off. She's got one knee, she's got one leg, and she's still saying like, I'm fine with like keeping like still pushing it out. She had more heart than he did. And granted, like, they might teach like some good out routes and work on strength conditioning at the University of Tennessee, but they don't fucking teach hard, because this Fezzy guy is an absolute joke. He's an absolute laughing stock. He looked like an absolute bitch the whole season. This was the cherry on top. TJ gave him shit. Production had a perfect soundtrack teed up for him. He goes out like a bitch. Kayce kind of kicks him while he's down a little bit. And then, of course, he still has the audacity in his confessional to say, oh, well, yeah, Kayce got hurt. My partner got hurt. And then Cory calls him out 10 minutes later. Like, nothing could have been better in terms of how this little bitch got his, like, come up. It's like what he deserved throughout this whole season was served to him on a plate right next to Rams testicles and a liter of blood, and I could not have been happier. Chattanooga.
There it is. Alex, what do you got for us?
I mean, I think it kind of just writes itself at this point. Like, the karma chameleon on Fezzy's exit was gold. It was just the perfect way to top it all off. I think, so not to touch too much on Kayce right now, even though we can just kind of cover them both. I feel like Kayce was the perfect partner to kind of be with him on this, just because like, I felt bad for her, obviously, because she busted her knee and everything. But at the same time, if you were to pick any of the Final Four girls to kind of go down sinking with Fezzy, you would want it to be the girl that picked him to run the final instead of somebody like Leroy. So it's like, I feel bad for her. I do, because she didn't deserve to go out like that with her partner not trying. But she kind of chose that. But, I mean, back to Fezzy. I mean, the dude's just so – I don't think anybody has been this unlikable. And, like, we kind of spent the first 8 episodes of this season shitting on Josh, the goof. But, like, he was always in a funny way. Like, he was just a funny person to laugh at when he was throwing those balls up at the thing. Like, whereas Fezzy is just, like, so actively unlikable. And, like, his confessionals with, like, all of that, like, he's just such a bitch. He kind of, I think he's, in terms of his challenge performance, I think he's entered the Lamar Jackson territory, where he kind of bursts on the scene right away, like, performs really well. He's, compared to most of the people around him, an elite athlete, but he can't win it. He can't win the big one. And he has good success early on. And so we'll see what happens. I'm kind of, I don't, and I know, like you said, they started to film the next one. I feel like he might stop being cast by the show just because of how unlikable he is. And he really brings nothing to the screen. He's not funny. He doesn't have, like, a lot of charisma or anything. So, like, he doesn't give good confessionals. So I don't know. I feel like if he is on this next season, he'll probably make the final, gas out again, and they might just stop casting the guy. But I mean, just a perfect ending to what Fezzy built up for 19 episodes.
You know, I thought you gave him a little.
One last thing I want to add, because you mentioned the whole karma chameleon of the soundtrack was
Boys
just
Don't Cry
awesome. Boys Don't Cry was the cherry on top to that. I mean, those were the 2 songs that were played when he was doing his little. I don't want to eat it, TJ. That I just want to make sure that was said. Go ahead, Trev. I'm done.
I mean, I can't really add any more. I've kind of went on my little tangent. Andy went on his, and obviously Alex. I was just going to ask, the only thing I'm worried about with him, and, Alex brought up the point like, oh, they might not have him back. I think it's the opposite. I think they're going to invite him back because they want him to be that villain role.
See, I don't
want them to keep just pumping. Like, I'm trying to think of an example of like them just kind of like pushing and sucking off one guy like in a sport. Like, I'm trying to think like kind of like Lamar. I guess like Lamar. During the NFL year, it was Lamar. I guess it's more of LeBron in his early career, sucking him off. Like ESPN would always show him.
Trev, I'm going to stop you right there before you keep going. Do not ever fucking compare Fezzy and LeBron. Like, I can't let you finish that comparison. I can't. I'll let Lamar fly, but you can't. Like, there's no way. Think of someone else. You can't compare those two. You just can't. I'm sorry.
I'll just stop.
No, Trev, I get your point about every, challenge season, challenge era needs a villain. I just don't know if they can make it be Fezzy because, like, he has no personality to him. Like, if you think back to early Wes was the perfect challenge villain in those early seasons when he was either bald or mohawk, roided up, always going against the whole cast. Like, Wes was able to play a really good challenge villain just because, part of what Wes is that he's a smart guy and he knew he was playing that role. Whereas Fezzy is just an idiot. He's not funny. He's not likable by anybody. Nobody's on his side. So they might try for one or two more seasons to kind of make him, this villain figure. Cause he wasn't the villain last season. If you remember, he was just like the quiet rookie of the year who was a beast. And then this season, I think he came on. I think part of it is he was kind of desperate to like get cast the third time. So he's like, I can't be quiet again this season. Like, I actually need to try to make a name for myself somehow. So he tried being this villain. And maybe they'll try it for a couple more seasons. I just don't think they can keep doing it just because he doesn't play the villain role very well.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Like, they're pushing him to be that villain, but he's not. You know what I'm saying? And I like to apologize to the chat and anybody listening. I was not comparing LeBron and Fezzy like levels at all. Obviously, I'm talking about one of the greatest basketball players of all time versus literally a Division I University of Tennessee football player. I'm not comparing them in athletics or anything like that, like at all. So I like to end that there. Let's talk about the third person or fourth person of the second team. And that is Chattanooga first and Kayce. So Kayce, I like Kayce a lot, and I felt like she was kind of dragged into a bad scenario, but she played it off too coming into those last episodes. She was kind of like, whispering into I'm picturing almost like that Draymond Green and Kevin Durant, little meme where she's like, oh yes, switch partners. We can be together. And, he's going like this or whatever. That's the vibe I got. Like, I like Kayce, but then like towards the end of the season, it was kind of just going down. I don't know how you guys felt. Obviously the whole injury situation kind of threw a wrench into everything, but I hope to see her back. I think she's a really good competitor, good for the show. Obviously the Big Brother Alliance is, but I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think Kayce is undeniably a very good challenge competitor. Like, she's been in 2 seasons. She's made 2 finals. She's good. She's very well-rounded. Like, she's pretty physical. She's a little shorter, but she still can win eliminations, win challenges, a good political player. I just think, like, she's too quiet. And, like, that's going to run its course in terms of getting this call back. Because, like, we're in the era now of the challenge where there's so much more turnover than there was, 10 years ago. Like, they're looking for new cast members all the time from new shows, new networks. And when you try somebody, like, I feel like they, from their production's perspective, they tried out Kayce last season from Big Brother, which is obviously a popular show. She did really well. So it's like, let's give her another shot. And she did really well this season, but like, she doesn't bring anything to the show. She doesn't bring storylines. All she does in her confessionals is kind of recap the rules of the challenge, just like TJ does. She doesn't really do anything besides that. She kind of had a little fling with Nany last season. Wish they would have brought that back with a few other girls this season. They didn't. But I would say overall, Kayce's a good competitor. I just don't know how many seasons they'll keep bringing her back.
Yep. Andy.
I agree. So let me ask you guys this. So in Kayce's seasons that she's been on, she's made it far. And that's really helped her from an overall perspective, because let's say either this season or last season, she goes into some like fluky or puzzle elimination and she goes home, she's not coming back. Because if you only see like 2 to 3 episodes of Kayce, that's nothing. Like, she's bringing nothing to the table. And like, in order for her to bring something to the table, and you kind of saw the Big Brother Alliance this season and the whole Nany thing last season, both of those took like 8, in this season, 12 to 15 episodes to develop. If she goes home early, she's bringing nothing to the table. And like, granted, she's a good competitor, so that might not happen, but you never know. And that's like a risk that MTV has to take, where are you really willing to bring someone on who could bring nothing to the table, go home episode 2, and then that's kind of a waste. So I like Kayce, but I think she's got to, I mean, granted, her and Fezzy, people forget Fezzy is an introvert, and I think Kayce is too, but I think she's just got to bring more if she wants to be, because I do think she has the potential to be like a dominant female competitor moving forward, but she's got to bring more to the table.
Mm-hmm. So we've kind of gone through all 4 people, or 4 teams, excuse me. Should we talk about kind of that last leg of the final, kind of from the overnight portion of the actual that's day 2, if you want to call it. So Alex, if you want to take it from there and talk about that.
Yeah. So the final, the first, I guess, half, 2/3 of the episode that we saw on TV was just very straightforward. All those different checkpoints and everything. The one thing that I did like about Fezzy and Kayce being 4th place was that they were, like we said, not on our TV for much of the episode at all. They were off within 15 minutes. But yeah, so it all kind of builds up to this last leg of the final. CT and Amber are in 1st place to start it. And I don't know about you guys, and I think we kind of touched on this last week, but I do like the fact that they said this is the order that we've gotten to so far, 1 to 3, and we're going to give you guys head starts based off of it, as opposed to just like doing
2 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, as opposed to just like doing the entire time. Because if they would have done that, CT and Amber could have backwalked to the final. But so they do this last checkpoint, and I think they kind of try to stretch out here in the last 15 minutes of the episode was CT and Amber getting lost, and then like finally finding the arrow back. But then it kind of ended with the big race to for 2nd place, because I think, was it Leroy finished 1st out of all those 4 people, and then Cory, and then Kam. So obviously Leroy and Nany finished 3rd. But I mean, what did you guys think just watching it on TV of those last 15 minutes, where it was like clearly CT and Amber in 1st, then they might have gotten lost, who knows, and then there's this big mad rush for 2nd place?
Yeah, Aaliyah Hope brings this up right now. How long do you think they actually were? I thought this team was way ahead. Like, I thought it was probably like 30 minutes ahead, maybe even longer. But that end, like the end race you were talking about, it kind of sucks, watching like how close it was, came down kind of that last puzzle, Kam beating Nany, and, kind of that last sprint, Leroy making it up the mountain. So, I mean, it's kind of sad, but, it is what it is. Andy, you were going to hop in there?
Well, I was just confused. So let me ask you guys, why were they just running the last, 100 feet, the last, 50 yards? Like
they were all walking before that.
They were all walking. Like, this is for 50 grand a person. Like, I was just very confused. Did you guys pick up on that? Because I was watching that like, this isn't just a walk in the park.
I mean, it was all this, Andy. They were gassed, all of them. And, I think what we need, and I think this is the first time I'm explaining this on the show, I think we need something where we want people to compete on the show, like a topic like Fresh Meat 3 or something like that, where people want to be there and want to do the finale and do all that. So, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Trev, I love that idea. Are you kind of saying Fresh Meat 3?
I think so. So,
Trev,
all jokes aside, honestly.
Well, Kam even said it at one point. She said, like, I'm walking because I saw Kayce bust her knee a day ago.
I mean, I thought that was kind of a weak excuse, but
it was a weak excuse. But I mean, to Javi's point, they were all walking, and then it seems like they saw TJ, and then Leroy was like, "Oh, I got to run now."
Yeah. So the one thing that I felt really weird with the ending of that final, and Ryan McCord just brought it up, it seemed like they were really playing up Leroy's last season for him to, ride out, as champ. And I feel like if you would have taken that one segment out, because it was crazy to think that they literally showed the champs like 10 minutes before the episode was over. And then you had the little like side-by-side running thing. It almost like it was like that was 1 and 2 right there. Like the way it was shot. It didn't feel like it was 2 and 3. But I don't know. I mean, it was kind of a weird ending, but I mean, obviously they knew they were in second and third, but like to Andy's point, like it's for 50 fucking K. Like you sprint, like you know it's nearby. You literally do whatever you can and just go all out.
And one of the things that was running through my mind as they showed them, the 4 of them kind of running to the finish line for second place, was like, realistically, it's basically Cory running against Nany, in the sense that, like, from a money standpoint, Leroy and Kam are splitting that money. They're literally moving in together. So, like, no matter what, they're splitting their winnings. And so it's a matter of, is Cory going to win money and Nany's not, or vice versa? So I think it was just kind of funny that, like, they got to a point where it was one team's going to get the second place money, one team's not. But, a team member on each team was going to win money because of the other person.
Absolutely. So any other lasting remarks from this episode? Andy, you got anything, or you all said?
Well, one more thing to add on just to what Alex was saying about how between Leroy and Kam, they were going to be splitting the money regardless. I was happy with the results because, and we talked about this again, it kind of comes full circle. Kam and Cory are both going to be back on the show. So for them to get second place, regardless of because Kam's money is going to be split with Leroy, that's fine. But both of them got that taste of being super close to getting a ring, and they both are going to be back again. Because by the time Cory's on again, he's probably going to have 4 kids. So, like, he's going to have to get first next time he's on. Whereas, like, for Nany and Leroy, even though Leroy's still going to split that money, yeah, that's fine. They both are like, you know what, maybe it's time we hang it up. Or maybe the next time we come on, we just come on for, well, not we, but for Nany, for example, if she comes on, like, she can't be expecting to win. Whereas, like, Kam and Cory both, I think, like, have the right to think, I've got a shot at winning this season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Alex, any other lasting remarks?
I mean, overall, just a straightforward finale. I think it kind of sucked that CT and Amber were so clearly in first the whole time. And it seemed like whenever they got to a checkpoint, all they did was just increase their lead. Most of the times it was a puzzle, which CT is good at. So it was nothing. I wish there would have been more competition for first, but they were able to kind of squeeze in some competition for second place there. But overall, I think it was just kind of a good ending to the season. And like I said earlier, they had everybody was positive when they crossed the finish line, mainly because the only person that didn't go home with money was Nany, essentially. And she's just thinking about her SIGs and her guys that she's hooking up with next season anyway. But overall, it was good, and we wrapped up the season, fucking 19 episodes. It's taken a while.
All right, so I think the only segment we have tonight is MVP, LVP. So you guys know what to do. Go in the chat, put the order that you guys want. Wow, Jesse Adams is already putting.
That's the order.
That is the order. We'll do that. But before I was going to give us some time because I know people were talking about it earlier. What did you guys think? That little like TJ clip at the end of the credits. Do you think that goes into next season, similar thing? Or I think the season started with like a clip similar to that, so it was kind of just like tying it all together. What did you guys think?
I think that's what it was. I think it was a callback to, I don't even know if it was episode 1 or if it was that little declassified special they did like the day before or whatever. But yeah, once they started showing that, I was like, wait a second. They started this whole fucking thing back in 2020 with TJ and like the same scene. I think that's all it was, and I hope to God that's all it was. It was kind of a weird way to like not end the season with just like everybody on the mountain.
Absolutely. So we got the order.
It was stupid. One last thing before we jump into MVP, LVP. JS Paul, Kyle, and Gabby did not hook up this season. You are spot on. Please message Stir the Pod, tweet at us, DM us your Venmo, and I will be paying up because people forget that I did actually place a wager on that because I think that was actually pre-COVID that I made that wager with any of the AWLs. So I'm a man of my word. I'm happy to pay up. So DM us on Twitter, and I will get that taken care of.
Yeah.
MVP, LVP, Trev, what do you got?
So I'm first. All right. So my MVP tonight,
and to clarify, it's just for the finale.
Just the finale episode, not the season or anything like that. My MVP tonight is going to be the fans watching Fezzy collapse. That is my MVP tonight. I think that whole collapse of him not eating, him leaving, and it was just a build-up from a lot of episodes, and bragging, the music kind of tied in, karma, chameleon. Like everything was just perfect with that. If that could just be on repeat for me, I would love it. And it was just so a fitting end to his like season this year. It was just awesome. And like the little like jabs at him, I don't think we talked about it, but literally everybody shitting on him in the cave and stuff like that. I mean, that makes us love the show is when, you see that happens and everybody's shitting on him. So that is why fans hating or, fans watching the collapse of Fezzy is my MVP tonight. Who's up?
Okay. So now it's going to me, correct? So this is tough because this seems very Mount Rushmore of things we love about the challenge-esque, where Trev kind of takes two different things. Because in my mind, Karma Chameleon means nothing about the fans themselves.
No, you can say soundtrack. That's fine.
No. My MVP is MTV production because the soundtrack was phenomenal. Boys Don't Cry, Karma Chameleon. People forget my MVP of last week's episode was Karma. So I don't know. We all know that someone from MTV is monitoring Stir the Pod, and like they obviously factored that into this week's soundtrack. But Boys Don't Cry, classic. Karma Chameleon, classic. Cory doing the Fezzy interview where he says it's not my fault. Spot on. I also loved the as Leroy is riding off into the sunset, the don't you forget about me. I mean, it just was awesome. So I don't like giving MTV production that much credit in general because I think they're usually a bunch of fucking losers and they don't know what they're doing. Knocked it out of the park today, and I was very happy with it. So my MVP is going to be MTV production.
Well, it's amazing because, you give them credit, but that's the shit they need to be doing at all times.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the best part. Like, we're like, oh, this wasn't amazing, but they should be doing this shit every fucking episode. And one thing that fires me up is obviously their Twitter shit, right? They spelled TJ Lavin's name wrong in a tweet this week. And they didn't correct it. They didn't delete the tweet or do anything. They literally just left it up. So you can go on their Twitter right now. They spell his fucking name wrong. The host of the fucking show.
What they call him JT? They call him.
They spelled his fucking name wrong. Oh. All right, Alex, sorry. What's your MVP? This also, before Alex chooses an MVP, this might be the first time we've done, 6 seasons completely through. This might be the first ever time the last pick has had the winner still be available.
Well, yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. Is very rarely, very very rarely, does the last person who gets MVP have a few very very good options. This time specifically, challenge champions, and that's not to discount your picks because both your picks were very deserving of MVP. But now I'm kind of in a position where I'm choosing between basically 3 names in my head. I don't want to take a whole team. I don't like taking whole teams or more than one person. So I'm trying to narrow it down to one person to pick for MVP. I think my pick for the finale, I'm going to go Amber. I'm going Amber. Just because, if you're going between her and CT, I would say the more impressive performance, not necessarily season overall, but the finale would be Amber because it's more surprising. And it's like you got to this point where it was like can Amber run? And can Amber finish a final? Like if you were to say before this finale that Amber didn't finish it, you probably wouldn't be surprised just because it's like a rookie. You don't know what they have and all that. And not only did she finish it, she beat Kam, she beat Nany, she beat all of these Kayce, all of these girls that we think of as being top tier girls on the show. So I mean, good for Amber. She'll probably win some awards in our season recap, but just for the finale overall, I'm going MVP Amber.
Great pick.
So to flip it right back around, Alex, your LVP tonight.
LVP, I think I'm just taking the easiest thing I can do. I gotta go Fezzy. And I think that kind of gives me a really good MVP pick and a really good LVP pick. I mean, Fezzy, just we've shit on him this whole episode, this whole season. Everything that he did at the University of Tennessee kind of led up to this point of running his second challenge, being with a teammate, and all the production that they did, like we kind of said, for another MVP, with all the soundtrack and Cory shitting all them in the cave and everything. Just a terrible person, terrible teammate. I think it's going to be interesting to see what kind of excuses he has on the reunion. But I mean, overall, just a very easy pick for the season, but I'm going to go just for the episode, just for the finale. LVP, Fezzy, Chattanooga.
Andy, LVP, who you got for us?
So here's the thing I'm struggling with. And we didn't really talk about this at the beginning. I'm having trouble finding an LVP. And the reason being, I love this episode. I really, really love this episode. And we didn't start with the classic, what do we think? But this might have been my favorite episode of the season, so it's hard to think of an LVP. With that being said, I do think my LVP is going to have to be. Is there a question out there?
No, you're good.
No.
Okay.
Who's your pick?
Who's your pick?
My LVP, I will go. I'm gonna go Nany. Because she did nothing. She did nothing. Like, Nany didn't do anything. And, like, I hate doing that because I also don't want to, like, discredit Nany overall because she still did make the final and she still finished it. But I do have to say that she didn't do anything that made me think, like by no means, and we talked about this last episode where it was a decision that CT had to make in terms of who he gives the food to and like who's going to be the like threat to CT and Amber. And like Nany was never a threat. Like she was just never a threat this whole final and especially this episode. So I have to go Nany, but I don't like it. But she's my pick.
All right, Alex, did you want to chime in real quick about?
I just before you give your pick, Trev, I just want to ask a question to the chat because I think they might be able to help us with something that we're going to talk about in a sec, real quick. Is just if anybody in the chat knows what the Double Agents reunion schedule is, like if they're going to do 1 part, 2 parts, if it's next Wednesday, whatever. If anybody has any information on that, let us know in the chat. We'll get to that in a sec. But sorry, Trev, your pick.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you guys took good LVPs.
Thank you.
And I think the only thing I can really take, the LVP that I have tonight, is going to be me not being able to see this chat anymore because you guys have just been killing it, and I'm going to miss it. You guys, I mean, half the times you see us cracking up on stream or whatever, it's reading this shit. Like the fact that Mikey the Doctor wrote LVP is Kayce for not letting Fezzy compete in the final. That's fucking hilarious. You guys, this is why we do the show, and it's a real shame. Like we don't know. We're gonna obviously take a little break. We don't know what it's gonna look like. Hopefully, we'll be back next week if it's 1 episode. 1 finale episode, we are 100% back. We'll do a full season recap after. But if it's 2 episodes, we'll probably skip next week. Need a little breather. Call us Fezzy, sitting on the log. But yeah, I love doing this, and I'm gonna miss you guys. Honestly, you guys make this show so much better. You know, we used to do this podcast not live, and you know, sometimes we struggle to get through it or whatever. And you guys have really pushed us through this season. So
wait. So what's your LVP pick to put on the graphic? Is it you?
You could say me not watching the chat.
Not being able to watch.
Not being able to watch the chat. Yeah,
okay.
That's fine.
Okay.
So
yeah. And Elite Hope just said, recap the reunion, please. We absolutely will. It's just a matter of if it's a 2-parter, and MTV is probably gonna make it a 4-parter. Like, and Chris in the chat just said a 2-parter. So we absolutely will recap the reunion. And cue us talking about how Fezzy might actually be more annoying in the 2-part reunion than he was in a 19-episode season. So we'll cue that right here. But we absolutely will because we don't quit.
Yeah.
We don't quit.
Yeah. And
we might not be coming out with episodes every week during the off season, but we're not going to quit. We're not going to quit on you guys. That's not what we do. We're here because we love this show. We love the chat. We love everything that you guys bring to the table. So we're still going to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you guys are new to listening to our podcast, basically we kind of do what we did tonight where the finale is only the finale. And then we take a week or so off, and it might work out well with the reunion being 2 weeks. And then we come back with a full season recap, which is basically kind of like an award show. We have a ton of different awards that we just go through and give our different winners and everything. And then from there, and we kind of like to let a few weeks just for us to kind of digest the whole fucking season, especially this time since it was 20 episodes. But recap the whole season, and then from there, And we'll talk about this in our season recap, but then from there, we'll probably take a couple weeks off and then come back with some off-season content. But yeah, like Trev said, I mean, overall, this is our first time doing season recaps live like this. And for everybody in the chat that like has been with us for 19 episodes, like it's been awesome. Like you guys legitimately help us get through this stuff. You can't have 19 good episodes of a show in a row, no matter what the show is.
And like Alex says, I mean, we're trying to make it as fun as possible. I mean, obviously we know his name's not FEZZZZZY. We're just fucking around, but like some people still don't realize that. Or, you know, obviously we know like as much as we shit on him about, you know, playing at football at the University of Tennessee, but like we're here to have fun. So literally do whatever you guys want in the chat. We love you guys. We honestly say it every week. Come back next season, fired up. Like we said during the off season, we want you guys to be a part of our off season. I mean, some of you guys have been around for 19 fucking episodes. And like, you know, for us to, you know, see you guys on here every week, it motivates us. Might have to say a little 18 because the one asterisk might have been the what was it, St. Patrick's Day episode. Some people were missing, but we'll forget about it. They were in the Redemption House for a week. But honestly, guys, I cannot thank you guys enough.
And as far as the next 2-3 weeks are concerned, just in terms of season recap and when we do that and everything, is for everybody that's on the live stream now, follow us on Twitter, because I would say that's the best way to learn when or to see when we're gonna actually be streaming it and everything. So just follow us on Twitter at StirThePod. Whenever we go live, whenever we record anything, we'll tweet it. So that's the best way to keep in touch with us now that this season's over. And then we'll just keep you guys updated.
Absolutely. So with that being said, thank you guys for listening to a brand new Stir the Pod podcast show. You have been listening to episode 19. Can't believe we made it this far. Shout out Duffy. Love you guys. Chattanooga. Goodbye.